For the second week in a row, Ohio State has gone through official visits, and for the second week in a row, Ohio State has added someone new to their 2025 recruiting class, up to 14 commits for now, the number one class in the country. Andrew, coming off this week, and I'm Stephen Means, that's Andrew Gillis. Get the text, 614-350-3315. All this information went out in the text first before we talked about it in a video or did literally anything else about it. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Faheem Delane, a number 34 player in the country, and number 2 safety in the country. Andrew, we've been talking about this really for a while now, where it felt like Ohio State had been trending, and maybe this official visit could be the final punctuation, and that turns out to be true.
Yeah, the number one thing that Ohio State couldn't have done this weekend was kind of let him leave. I've said this before on this pod. If you don't lead for somebody after a visit, you're probably not getting them. I think that's pretty fair to say. And it felt like Ohio State was in the lead, so this was very much a shut it down week. We talked about this on our other pod. You had Cody Haddad here, him trying to help settle things down. Eli Lee, same thing, to kind of lock Faheem into this class, and that's exactly what happened. So, now you add Faheem. He's another top 40 player, top 34 really, because that's his ranking. So you got 3 top 34 players. You got Devin Sanchez and Naheem Alford, the number 1 and number 2 corners in this 2025 class. They flip all the time between the first corner on the board, the second corner. Doesn't really matter. Just know that for your sake, that Ohio State has the number 1 and number 2 corners in this class. Then you add Delane, who is a really big kind of addition here, and we can get into why and kind of future years and what he can bring in a couple of seconds. But, you add another player like that to the back end. You've already got Cody Haddad. He's a 4-star safety, an in-state safety. I think he's going to really fly up the rankings in his senior year. Then you get Deshaun Stewart, safety out of New Jersey. Ohio State really, really likes him. He has great coverage skills. They're building a nice little secondary here. And when you kind of map out where this team can go and what this can mean, you really, really like where the secondary recruiting is. And, I wrote this for the site that the secondary is the reason why Ohio State has the number 1 overall recruiting class in the 2025 class as of now. Of course, a lot can change, but they've pretty much set the floor of this is a top 4 class, top 5 class at minimum, and it's because of the safety recruiting and the cornerback recruiting that Ohio State has done.
So Delane listed at 6'2.5" and 195 pounds. Ohio State plays a safety-driven defense where you've got that nickel, and then you've got those 2 high spots, the adjuster and the bandit. Where does Faheem fit into this defense?
They told him, when I talked to him in February, and they were telling him at the time, we're going to put you on wherever you can get on the field. So that could be, in whatever different position that you want. They said that they could see him playing the slot. They could see him playing up top. They could see him playing in the box. They could see him playing a lot of different roles. They just want to get him on the field, and it's clear to see why. I think, I talked with some people at Our Lady of Good Counsel, and, one of the things that Andy Stefanelli is coach, and one of the things that he said was that his football IQ and his instincts are really, really difficult to teach. They've put him at corner, they've put him at safety, and he's really kind of had that ability in him the entire time, and he's really kind of had that momentum in him, to lock down whatever position he's going to play. So it sounds like they're flexible. It sounds like Ohio State is flexible. It sounds like Faheem is flexible as to what position that's going to be. Now, you look at the safeties for, where Ohio State's at right now. They've got 7 on the roster. You wonder where this room is going to be in a year or two, because we're talking about all the talent that they have right now. Lathan Ransom is going to go at the end of the 2024 season. You still have Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs will be here for 2025. But for most freshmen, when you talk about them, you're talking about a guy who won't contribute a ton in their freshman year. So you got to think about where this room is going to be. And, I know, Steven, you've talked to a lot of people that are really high on Malik Hartford. If Malik Hartford is kind of what people think it could be, maybe a 3-and-done player, he might not be around. Caleb Downs is certainly a 3-and-done player. He's not going to be around. Lathan Ransom is not going to be around. So that leaves you with like Jaden Bonsu and Leroy Roker and Jalen McClain, and that's it. This room needed numbers, and more importantly, this room needed some high-end quality, and that's exactly what you get with Faheem Delane. So, yeah, this was a big-time addition. I think when you look at the future of the safety room, and really that kind of starts with the 2026 team, Faheem Delane is going to be a big part of that.
Faheem Delane, the first top 100 safety that wasn't from Ohio, that Ohio State landed to Josh Proctor. Obviously, they brought in Sonny Styles, but he grew up in Pickerington, 15 minutes down the road. That's almost a bigger story if you don't get that guy. But getting a national prospect rated as highly as Faheem Delane, they haven't done that since 2018, since Josh Proctor. You just mentioned it. They have 4 defensive backs right now in this class, and by all accounts, I don't think either one of us think they're done. But right now, you've got 4 guys, and 3 of those guys are either the number 1 or the number 2 guy at their position right now, with Faheem Delane being the number 2 safety, and as you mentioned, Devin Sanchez and Naheem Alford being the top 2 cornerbacks in the country. And you still got guys like Trey McNutt out there. You've got Dorian Brew out there as well, 2 5-star recruits. But where it is right now, let's just say they don't land anybody else. Though we're expecting them maybe to get at least one more guy, right? But if they don't land anybody else, Devin Sanchez, Naheem Alford, Cody Haddad, and Deshaun Stewart, what's one word you would use to describe Ohio State's 2025 defensive back recruiting class?
Elite. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of in a situation where, I mean, you got 2 top 10 corners, and then you got a top 35 safety, and then you're also kind of in the mix. Dorian Brew, he's number 61 overall in the 247 rankings. You're in the mix for him. There's somebody that we're going to talk about later, where he's on a visit to Ohio State. You've got him. You mentioned it. You've got some guys. You got Trey McNutt, like you said. There's another top 125 player, Messiah Delhomme. There's Jaden Hudson on the board. Like there are options here, and I don't anticipate Ohio State is done, because 3 safeties and 2 corners. You're adding really 5 guys to the secondary, and only 2 of them are kind of locked into positions. Like Naheem Alford and Devin Sanchez are going to play that outside corner role. It sounds like Cody Haddad is going to play a safety, but Deshaun Stewart can play that slot role or the safety role. It sounds like they view the same thing with Faheem Delane. There's guys that can move all which ways around the secondary, and it sounds like they're after some guys that can maybe do some of the same things. So yeah, I think elite is the best word to describe it, because how many other programs in the country can say that they have the number 1 and number 2 player at a particular position? Not many in general recruiting classes, right? You go back. I mean, how many guys can say, "Oh, we got the number 1 and number 2 offensive tackle," or "We got the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers," or "We got the whatever." Not many programs can say that, and then you're doing it at a position where you are also backfilling at safety. Yeah, that's elite.
Ohio State trying to repeat what it did in 2017 with Jeff Okudah and Sean Wade by landing the top 2 corners in the country. They already have them on the board. Now it's just, can you keep them signed? And then also, are they going to keep those ratings? Because those things will continue to update over the next couple of months here. I'll use the word incomplete, and I mean that in the most positive way possible. Because as you just mentioned, we both just mentioned, there's still people out there that they could add to this group. The fact that it's already this good and you don't think they're done yet, that's why I'm using incomplete. But I'm not using it to chastise. I'm using it almost as the ultimate optimistic look of this, because what if they do add Dorian Brew and Trey McNutt? No, Trey McNutt may be the more long shot of the 2, but what if you add both of those 2 to this class? Where you already used the word elite, we might have to use a word even higher than that if they add those 2 guys. So get the text, 614-350-3315. All this information, all this news, we'll keep talking about this through the text. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. And go listen to Buckeye Talk wherever you can find podcasts.